There's a specific kind of pain that lives in the ones who hold everyone else together. It's it's not always loud. It doesn't usually show up as a breakdown or even as drama. More often though, I think it shows up in silence. It's a silence that follows another crisis that was handled, another emotional mess that was cleaned up, another person who leaned in while you stayed standing. It's the silence of going home after being the strong one, the one who showed up, the one who offered, the one who steadied everyone else while quietly unraveling on the inside. And you're that glue, right? And no one ever asks what happens when the glue starts to crack. See, some of us have learned very early on that if we didn't hold it together, well, then no one else would. So we became the steady ones. We became the reliable ones, the ones who show up when it's hard, hold space when it's messy, and carry the weight that others drop without even thinking. And we got good at it. So good, in fact, that no one ever stopped to ask if we even wanted to do that in the first place, or even if we could, if we were breaking beneath the strength. Because the stronger we looked, the less people looked at us with concern. This is where I work from. See, I'm building this platform, Bintegers. It's a space for helping people live with more integrity and intimacy. And for me, integrity is about aligning who we are on the inside with how we move through the world. And intimacy means letting ourselves be seen without performing, without pleasing, without even disappearing. See, I believe the parts of us that we hide are often the ones that are most worthy of gentleness. And I'm not here to fix anyone. I'm here to actually build a kind of wholeness that doesn't depend on being liked or picked or even being productive. Just being real instead of just being rooted or whole. But let's come back to this glue analogy though. See, the thing about being glue is you keep everything together, right? But no one in essence keeps you. No one sees the fracture lines that are forming underneath your calm demeanor. No one sees the resentment that is percolating beneath your patience. No one sees the cost of always being the one who doesn't fall apart. And that's because I think you've trained them to. You don't ask for help, right? And you don't show need, and you don't make a mess. You make sure that everything works and everyone gets along and every fire gets put out before anyone smells smoke. And you do this well. But over time, something inside of you starts to go quiet. And it's not burnout, not exactly. It's not rage, it's not sadness. It's a kind of emotional erosion, a slow vanishing. You stop reaching out and you stop expressing what you feel. You stop wondering if anyone would notice even if you did. Because being strong has become your whole identity. And asking for support now feels kind of like betrayal of the role that you didn't even choose. And you might find yourself sitting in a room that's full of people who care for and love for you and still feel like no one knows you. Because they know the part of you that's strong, the part that gives, the part that carries, but they've never gotten to know the part that you carry alone. They've never asked, right? And you may have never have told them, and maybe you didn't even know how to tell them. Because somewhere along the way, you learned that needing anything made you feel vulnerable. And vulnerability makes you feel unsafe. So you became capable. And now, no one thinks to ask you how you're doing. They just assume that you're okay because you always have been. See, that's the story that they know. That's the story that you've told them with your strength. But what if this story is no longer true, though? What if your silence isn't grace? What if your composure isn't peace? What if your reliability is actually a slow motion collapse where you're the glue, but you're really coming apart and no one sees it? Because glue doesn't cry out when it cracks, does it? It just breaks silently, under pressure, under the weight of everyone else holding it together. There's a big difference between being strong and being held, between being steady and being supported, between being capable and being known. But when you're the glue, those lines begin to blur. And you show up because that's what you've always done. You help because it's what keeps you close. And, and you give because that's what keeps things moving. And it works until it doesn't. Until the giving starts to feel hollow. Until the strength starts to feel brittle. Until the love that you've helped others build never quite comes back around. And you find yourself always adjacent to the care and never inside it. Everyone gets poured into while you're holding the pitcher. It's a strange kind of loneliness, being surrounded by, but you're never really seen by anyone. I mean, people thank you, they admire you, they lean on you, but the question is, do they know you? Do they know the version of you who's tired of being thanked instead of being tended to? Do they know the version of you who wants to stop just once and be held without explaining why? Do they even ask? Most don't. Not because they're cruel, but because you've been too good at pretending that it's fine. You've smiled convincingly, you've nodded too generously, and you've kept things running so smoothly that no one's ever noticed of your, how much of yourself you've spent. And when no one notices that, resentment begins to whisper. Not the kind that lashes out, not the kind that seeks revenge, but the kind that, like I said, percolates deep in your chest. The kind that makes your kindness feel like a chore and makes your helpfulness feel like a trap and makes your strength feel like you can't stop telling. Because if people really knew you, if they knew how much it costs to hold everyone together, they might back away. They might not know what to do. And part of you is kind of terrified of that prospect. So you keep holding it all of it. Even as the weight doubles, even as your body keeps score. You hold the room. You hold their secrets. You hold their breath. But here's the thing about resentment. It's not a failure of character. Resentment is more a sign of imbalance internally. It's not proof that you're ungrateful. It's proof that something vital inside is going unheard. Resentment is not the problem. It's actually the symptom. It's a signal. It's the red light. The red light that's flashing underneath your constant yes. It's your soul saying, I'm not okay being the strong one if it means that I'm invisible. There's a tenderness that's buried in that anger, though. A longing to be seen without having to earn it. A hunger to be supported without first supporting everyone else. A desire to be more than what you do for people. And that's not selfish. That is a sacred longing, because strength that costs you yourself isn't strength. That's a sacrifice. And if you're not made to disappear in your service of everyone else's peace, what happens when you stop? What happens if you let yourself soften? If you let someone else take the lead, maybe? If you stop anticipating what everyone else needs and start instead wondering what you need? I mean, it will feel wrong at first when you try this. It might even feel dangerous, because strength has been your way of staying close or staying safe or staying wanted. But safety that requires your erasing is not safety. I call that survival. And survival was never meant to be your only story. You're allowed to change the pattern, to step back without explaining, to take up space without justification, to stop showing up as glue and instead start showing up as yourself. And that version of you, the one who's tired and unsure and soft and vulnerable, that version is not weak. That version is not failing. That version is the one that could be healing. healing from the strong one that doesn't start with a breakdown, but instead starts with a pause, a long, uncomfortable, radical pause where you stop doing what you've always done and instead just wait. Wait to see if the room will hold you without you having to reciprocate. Wait to see if people that you've carried will notice your silence. To wait to see if the steps forward will be your final step back to yourself. And sometimes it's true, no one does notice. And that silence, it doesn't mean that you aren't worthy. It means the system was never built to carry you. It was built on you. And when your strength becomes a pillar that others lean on, your collapse may feel like a betrayal, but it wasn't. It's more a revelation. It shows you which of your connections were conditional and which ones depended on your overfunctioning and which ones depended on your strengths instead of your soul. That truth can break your heart, and it can also set you free. Because now you're not really guessing anymore. You're not hoping that being needed will turn into being known. You're not mistaking gratitude for intimacy. You see the structure far more clearer now. And for the first time, you might stop patching it up. You might let it crumble where it was never strong enough to hold you. It's in that collapse that something unexpected starts to come to the surface. And it's not despair or failure, but your voice, your real voice, the one that never learned how to speak when it wasn't offering, the one that only came out when there was something to fix. Now that voice starts to ask different kinds of questions. What if I say no, for example, and they leave? Or what if I stop making everyone okay and it gets messy? What if I finally show up as someone who needs? See, the fear is real, but so is the desire underneath it. The desire to rest, the desire to stop anticipating, the desire to be received not for what you're offering, but for who you are. This is where the shift begins. And it doesn't happen all at once or with fireworks, but slowly, with a single refusal or a single pause or a moment where you just let the silence stay silent and you don't fill it or rush in to glue it back together. You just let it be. And in that space, something happens. Something returns, and that's your presence. Not the performance, not the persona, not the strength that people are used to, but just you. You begin to feel your own shape again and your own timing and your own pace. And you notice your body saying enough. You notice when your mind starts to rehearse the usefulness lines again, right? And you gently interrupt it. And you notice when someone expects you to save the day and you let them sit with the consequences instead. That's not abandonment, that's a boundary. And boundaries are where glue stops being self-erasure and starts becoming structure. Not to hold others together, but to finally hold you. So let me say this clearly. You are not responsible for keeping everything intact. You are not obligated to hold what is not yours to carry. You are not the answer to every unasked question. You are allowed to fall. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to be disappointed in the people who let you be strong for too long without ever checking in. And you're allowed to build new relationships from here. Ones where your softness is not a liability, where your needs are not a nuisance, and where you actually can believe that your yes means something because your no is also honored as well. When you've spent a lifetime being the one who holds everything together or everyone else together, it can feel terrifying to let this all go. But letting go is not collapse, it's clarity. It's the realization that love isn't supposed to cost your wholeness, that connection does not require compression, and that being dependable should never mean you're being depleted. This is the truth that we're walking toward now. See, you don't have to be the glue. You can be the one who breathes, the one who falters, the one who leans. You can be carried, and not because you've earned it, not because you've done enough, but simply because you exist. And that's enough. See, the world may not offer that to you easily, and systems rarely reward softness. But here in your body, in your breath, in your becoming, you get to begin a new world. One where your worth is not tied to usefulness, and where your silence is not punished with distance. One where your boundaries don't make you unlovable, they actually make you whole. This world won't always feel comfortable. It won't always be able to understand, but it will be real. And real is the only thing that's worth returning to. There will be days when the old past and the patterns call you back. When someone needs something and your instinct is to jump right back in. When someone is hurting and your nervous system rushes to fix it. Or when someone is disappointed and you want to smooth or erase that pain. But you'll pause and you'll breathe and you'll remember. You're not their foundation. You're not their solution. You're not their peacekeeper. You are a person that's full and sacred and deserving of the same care that you've given away for so long. And this is what healing looks like. It says things like, not this time, with a voice that may still shake. It may mean that you're not replying immediately. You're not saving the day. You're not letting someone rely on you to save the day. You're letting the group dynamic adjust without your emotional scaffolding. And it will feel unnatural at first. But that's only because your natural state was trained out of you. You're not broken, you're unlearning. And the more you do this, the more you'll notice a quiet return of something that you thought you might have lost. And that is yourself. Not the version that was shaped by responsibility, not the one that kept everything running, not the smile that made other people feel better, but the one version of you who existed before you had to be strong, before you were in the survival season, the one who was always worthy of softness, the one who is allowed to be carried. And that you is still there, waiting and worthy. So today, maybe for the first time, consider this step. Maybe let the glue dry up. Let the cracks show. Let something fall apart. Let someone see the version of you who isn't holding it all together. And when they do, if they love you, or if they truly love you, they won't hand you the broom. They'll sit beside you in the rubble, in the realness, in the weight that you've been carrying alone. And they'll say, you don't have to hold it together anymore. And maybe, just maybe, you'll believe them. I hope you do. Drop me your comments or questions in the comments below.